Welcome back to We Want Picks. I'm Artem in the May, and I'm going to be breaking down this PFL card taking place this Friday. Now, I do know that BetSam did it last week, and he did a very good job of it last week as well. So I do have to come back and fill in some shoes, I guess you could say, just given the fact that BetSam was able to go perfect on his predictions for the main card last week. So thank you very much for BetSam for doing that for me. I know that he did have to tape study everything because he wasn't too familiar with a lot of the guys, and I do know that he spent a lot of time looking into the card, so I do appreciate him for doing that, and I'm glad that everyone got a pretty good result out of that as well. Now, this week, I'm back, and hopefully I can also have a great card on this very, very interesting PFL card. Now, it is their semi-finals, but I feel like there's just one really big elephant in the room here. Kevin Lee is in the main event, and he is taking on Gutierrez, who, in my opinion, is one of the best fighters that PFL has on their roster, and that's kind of shown in the odds for this fight. Gutierrez is a minus 2,000 favorite against Kevin Lee, and a lot of people are also wondering, can Kevin Lee even make it to the fight? Kevin Lee's got a fight at 155 on short notice. Can he make the weight class? There's only one way to find out, and then aside from that as well, I feel like there's just some really good matchups, kind of top to bottom on this 13 fight card. Now, there are some classic PFL prelims down the bottom, but for the most part, this is a very, very good PFL card, and we're getting 13 fights for that as well. This Friday at 5:30 PM Eastern Time on ESPN, and of course, I do have an article about this card, and I will be doing LFA this week as well on the We Want Picks website. If you do sign up using the code ARTEM, you do get 10% off your first membership. So with that being said, let's get into my predictions for this card. So the first fight on the Tapology bout order for the card is going to be Dominiguez taking on Meck here at 170 pounds. And I will be honest with you guys, I don't really love this matchup all that much. Like, I don't think it's going to be the most fun fight in the world. Dominiguez is just a very tough guy that can take a lot of damage and can dish out a lot of damage. And I actually do think he has the opportunity to potentially pull off a big upset here against Meck, just given the fact that Meck does have a very big hole in his game, and that is the cardio. Meck is a very good wrestler. He does have a wrestling background. He does have a lot of power, but once that first round is finished, he has shown that he can gas out pretty badly, and his loss to Kevin Pease in that fight, despite getting a knockdown in the first round, after that, that fight was just... it was just a bit sad. It was just a bit terrible, I'll be honest, and both guys were pretty tired in that matchup. Now, Dominiguez has a pretty good win over Naib Lopez, who is also a wrestler. Very similar stylistic matchup here, but I am going to be going with Meck. I do think Meck can get a takedown on Dominiguez early and find a submission, but if he doesn't, then maybe Dominiguez can make something happen as a pretty sizable underdog in the matchup, because Dominiguez right now is plus 190, but I am going to side with Meck. Now we have Saray Orozco fighting against Ilara Joane. Honestly, at this point, I just don't really know if I can pick Ilara Joane to win a fight. And given the matchup as well, I actually don't mind this fight for Orozco, given Orozco's style. Orozco is a very pressure forward, very scrappy boxer. I wouldn't say that she has great striking technique. I actually do consider Joane to have pretty decent striking technique, but the thing about Joane is she just kind of loses a lot. Like, she does fight really good competition, I will admit that, but she just doesn't quite come out on top. And the thing about Orozco is, in her last fight, she was able to pressure Samiko Inaba quite a lot, was able to reverse a lot of those clinch positions, was able to show a strength advantage in a lot of moments there. And I think that she is going to have a strength advantage against Ilara Joane here. I think Orozco is going to come forward, clinch up, dirty box a bit, and despite having a technique disadvantage, I think she's going to have a scrappy, like an aggressiveness advantage, I think you would say. And I think that she can win this fight by decision just by being the stronger fighter and utilizing that clinch. Orozco is the popular favorite here, and she is also the underdog actually on the betting odds, is plus 115 at the time of me recording. Mattos now fights against Lazaro Dayron. Here's the thing about Mattos. I did my tape on him, and I really liked his striking, and then I picked him to beat Jake Hadley, like an idiot, right? That was a terrible pick. I'm more than aware of that. I think that card actually wasn't my best one, unfortunately. However, The thing about this fight is it has made me realize that I just don't think I can pick Mattos to beat someone that's a wrestler. You know, the thing about Mattos is, despite him being a sick striker and just really, really fun to watch on the feet, the takedown defense just isn't there. We've seen him taken down by Magomedov. I know Magomedov is good, but he dominated him. Kasumov, we saw how that went against Wetzell, right? But also, once again, got dominated in the wrestling there. And then Jake Hadley took him down and put him in a Scottish twister, a submission which I don't think I've ever seen before until it happened a couple of months ago. The thing about Lazaro Dayron is he's not the biggest guy for 135 pounds, but he's a very physical guy. He's quite strong for his frame, and most importantly, he is a wrestler, and he is coming off a draw against Danny Sabatello in which a fight which is, I think you would argue that he would have won, but he got a point deducted in the third round for grabbing the cage in that matchup, so he ended up getting the draw. And Sabatello's good at one thing, really, and that is wrestling and grappling, and Dayron really held his own in that fight, and I think that we can see Dayron go out there and get the takedowns against Mattos. Mattos is a sick striker. I really do love watching his striking, but he's got a massive hole in his game again, which is just the takedown defense. It's not very good. Mattos is the underdog. Dayron is minus 175. I think he gets it done by decision. And now we have Darragh taking on Mike Hamel, and Mike Hamel is taking this fight on short notice, and I'm not entirely sure what we can expect from Mike Hamel at this point. We haven't seen him fight since Bellator was Bellator. He hasn't fought for 18 months, and before that he was on a pretty good win streak, and he has quite a few good wins on his belt, and he was an active fighter as well under the Bellator banner, but we just haven't seen him fight in 18 months. I'm not too sure why. Maybe he's been injured, maybe he's had contract problems. I'm not 100% sure, but he's stepping up on short notice now to take on Darragh. And I will be honest with you guys, I think that Mike Hamel actually does have a chance here as the underdog against Darragh. Darragh, in my opinion, did show some holes in his game in his last fight against Fritsenko. Yes, he did beat Fritsenko, and yes, that is the best win, in my opinion, of his career. But after finding success in round number 1, it looked like the cardio kind of fell off a little bit. He did start to gas out quite a bit in round 2, but Dmitry Fritsenko just was not aggressive in that fight at all. So Darragh kind of got away with, like, I guess you could almost say, if you watch the fight, taking the second round off and then putting it on in the third round, trying to get more takedowns in the third round. Kelly is a grappler. He is pretty solid on the feet, in my opinion, from range, but I don't think his striking is the best part of his game. I think the best part of his game is the wrestling and the grappling. I do think that against Hamel, just given the fact that we don't know what Hamel's going to look like, I have to go with the guy with momentum in Darragh, but I will be honest, I don't love him at minus 265 here. Hamel has solid wins. He was on a great streak before he just didn't fight after getting knocked out by Tim Wilde. So interested to see how Hamel looks, but I'm going to go with Kelly to win by decision in this fight. And now Tony Caruso is going to be fighting against Vinicis Cenci. If you guys know or don't know, Vinicis Cenci is a very interesting character in the world of MMA. He got signed just out of absolutely nowhere to the Contender Series in 2022. Didn't have a bad performance against Sam Patterson looking back at it. Like on the feet in the first round, he actually had quite a bit of moments, but if you just look into his career, he hasn't fought anyone like that good prior to the Sam Patterson fight, and then he kind of once again come out of nowhere and fought Yavnit and Chichala on UAE Warriors, and then somehow managed to get himself a PFL contract and fought against Brent Primus, and Primus did just dominate him with control for all 3 rounds, really. But I think against Tony Caruso here, I think that Vinicis Cenci might have the opportunity to show what he's good at, because although we haven't really seen anything from Cenci recently, aside from the Yavnit and Chichala matchup, which Cenci was trying to keep the fight on the feet for quite a bit of it, and Primus just dominating him with the wrestling, I think that this is a matchup which we might be able to see Cenci show what he is good at. And I know he's got a lot of submission wins in his career, but his striking's pretty good. It's pretty dynamic, it's pretty fast. He was able to find success against Sam Patterson on the feet in quite a few moments there. And Tony Caruso on the feet, he just is quite stiff. He does fight very upright, he does pressure forward a lot, but I do think that he's going to be a bit slower on the feet. So I think that this fight honestly just comes down to whether or not Tony Caruso is going to go out there and get takedowns on Vinicis Cenci and try to wrestle against Cenci. But I am going to go with Vinicis Cenci here. It's not a very confident pick at all. Cenci is, like, at this point, just a bit of a meme because he just, you know, has come out of nowhere multiple times and gotten big opportunities. But watching Tony Caruso, I think he is a bit stiff and slow compared to Cenci on the feet. So I'm going to go with Cenci to win by decision here. And I do think he's actually the favorite in the matchup. It's about dead even odds right now, with Cenci about -120. And now Magomedov versus Savarjon Khamidov. In my opinion, one of the best fights on this card. Magomedov, of course, is a very high-level guy. And, of course, has fought Mix a couple of times and lost a couple of times. And I think there is a fair argument for him to beat Mix in that fight, looking back at it. And here's the thing that annoys me so much. In hindsight, Mix has always been a super stiff striker with no head movement whatsoever. We saw that against Magomedov. Mix never moved his head. He did his snarl, like he was growling the whole time. And Magomedov just wasn't a good enough striker to expose it. And maybe in hindsight, Mix just never fought a dynamic striker in his career, so we just didn't really realize how bad that head movement truly was. But in that matchup, Mix had some moments, Magomedov had some moments as well. But the matchup that I really look at, and this is a very funny sort of fight to look at, I think, when you look at the Savarjon Khamidov fight. But the matchup that I look at is the Danny Sabatello win, which Magomedov won in the first round. But in this fight, Danny Sabatello was actually able to take down Magomedov multiple times in the first round. I know Magomedov ended up getting a guillotine, but it did show that Magomedov can get taken down. And that's what Savarjon Khamidov is going to do. The thing about Khamidov is there is a lot of unknowns about him still. He is 16-0, but he hasn't really fought the best guys in Bellator, in my opinion. But the thing about Khamidov is he's a very good wrestler, and he knows he's a good wrestler. He doesn't really bother striking at all. In fact, I would say I haven't even really seen that much striking out of him in 16 professional fights. I know that's crazy to say, but he's very good at wrestling. And I do believe that if Khamidov just commits to the wrestling, I think he can get the takedowns on Magomedov here. And he only needs to control Magomedov for 2 rounds out of 3. So I actually am going to be picking Khamidov here. And honestly, I thought that I was going to pick Magomedov, but after I did the tape study, after I saw Magomedov get taken down by different opponents and kind of show that he can get taken down and controlled in moments as well, I think I've got to go with the guy that is going to wrestle. Now, here's the thing. Magomedov isn't the best striker in the world by any means, but I do believe he is going to have a pretty significant striking advantage in this fight. It doesn't really seem like Khamidov has that much striking in his arsenal, but I will say, if Magomedov can defend the takedowns and keep the fight on the feet, I do think it's his fight to win for sure, but I just don't think that that's going to happen. I am going to pick Khamidov to go out there and win the fight. He is the underdog right now. He's +108 at the time of me recording, and I'm going to pick him to win by decision, but it's a very high-level fight and a very good fight at 135 pounds. And the next fight is now going to be Jena Bishop taking on Ekaterina Shakalova, and this is kind of a story of 2 fighters that are coming off 2 very different performances. I think that Jena Bishop is actually coming off a very bad performance against Kana Watanabe, and Ekaterina Shakalova is coming off a career-best performance against Joane Velasquez, where she submitted the former Bellator champion in the very first round. However, I am still going to be picking Jena Bishop in this matchup, and despite Bishop being the favorite, I think a lot of people are going to be trying to find underdog money on Shakalova. But my reasoning for picking Bishop is I think that she is going to have a size advantage in this fight. I think it's going to be pretty noticeable given how small Shakalova looked against Velasquez, and I do think that in this matchup the better grappler out of the 2 is Jena Bishop. Jena Bishop has a massive background in grappling in BJJ, and it has transferred pretty well over to MMA. Her only MMA losses being to some very high-level fighters such as Tyler Santos and Dakota Tchiva, and I do think against Shakalova, I think that she should be alright here. Now, the thing about Shakalova is she is an okay striker, and Jena Bishop did get knocked down by Kana Watanabe, and that honestly is a fight which you could score for Watanabe. I wouldn't I would understand if you did score it for Watanabe, but I think that in that fight, we saw that Bishop can deal with someone that can hit her pretty hard, and Shakalova's striking, I think it is very inaccurate when she does throw, and I also think that she just isn't as powerful as Watanabe is kind of what I'm trying to say. I think Bishop's striking is bad. She's 39 years old. It's not going to be improving very quickly. But I do think in this fight, given the size advantage, given the grappling advantage, I think Bishop can get the fight down to the ground and also get the takedown. Another concern I think you would have about Bishop is the cardio. She did look like she gassed out quite a lot against Watanabe, but that was a very high action fight. And the thing is though, despite gassing out, Bishop was the one that really pushed it in the third round, and even in the last minute of the fight, had the back of Watanabe and was trying to get a submission, a rear naked choke. So Bishop's never going to be out of the fight, no matter really what happens. And honestly, I do think that in this fight, we see Bishop get takedown against Shakalova, and I do believe that we see Bishop find a submission win here as the slight favorite in the matchup. Now we have a very different stylistic matchup to each other. Brent Primus is going to be taking on Alfie Davis, and Brent Primus is a pure wrestler. He is pretty old now, definitely in the later years of his career, being 40 years old, but he's still looking pretty decent and is still putting up some pretty good performances, I do think, considering, and especially last year, he made it all the way to the finals, where he did lose to Gadzi Rabadonov, but before that, did have a couple of pretty solid wins, and did just recently beat our boy, Vinicis Cenci. Now, Alfie Davis is actually also coming off a very good win when he defeated Clay Collard in a fight which I thought Clay Collard was looking pretty good until Collard made some mistakes and Alfie Davis managed to make a highlight reel out of him. And in that fight, I did pick Clay Collard, and the reason why I picked Clay Collard was because I thought that he would be able to benefit a lot from threatening takedowns. Because here's the thing about Alfie Davis. He is a very good striker. I think that he has multiple national titles in striking. I think he's competed in the World Championships in kickboxing as well. And if you do watch him fight, he fights very, very similarly to Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, where he's got the very wide karate stance and he's hopping up and down on his feet a lot. And he wants to just kind of throw kicks. He wants to spin. He wants to kind of just explode at moments. But the thing about Davis is, whenever he's taking on a wrestler or someone that pushes him or someone that can threaten takedowns, someone that clinches him, someone that can take him down, that is when he's lost, and that is when he hasn't looked great. So I think just kind of given that stylistic matchup, I do like the matchup for Primus. Now, Primus is going to be at a massive striking disadvantage here. I don't think you need me to tell you that, but I do trust in Primus to go out there and just shoot the takedowns, because I do think he is going to do that. I think he is going to be constantly pressuring forward against Davis, pressuring forward, getting the clinch, and then getting the takedowns. And once he gets the takedowns, I do think he can hold Davis down. Now, I think that Primus is a very big guy for the weight class. I think he's got a lot of control. We've seen that once he gets a takedown, it's very hard for you to get back up. So I do think Primus goes out there, gets the takedown on Alfie Davis, and I do think he gets it done as a pretty decent size favorite in this matchup. He is minus 190 against Davis here. And now, Justin Wetzell versus Mando Gutierrez. I think this is a very intriguing fight because both guys are coming off pretty big upset wins in their previous fights. Now, Wetzell, he coming on short notice. He did unfortunately miss weight, but he did defeat Kasumov, where he had a pretty massive size advantage, was able to defend a lot of takedowns, and was able to do more damage by just being the better striker out of the two in that fight. And then Mando Gutierrez is coming off a big upset where he was actually losing on the feet quite a lot. In fact, he was actually probably on his way to getting knocked out in the first round, but then Francisco Nuzzi slipped when throwing a kick, and Gutierrez just pounced on him after that. So I think that we are going to potentially see a pretty good matchup between two guys that are just coming off like massive, massive underdog victories for both guys. Now, here's the thing about Wetzell. On the feet, I actually do think he is going to have a very slight advantage here. On the regional scene, Wetzell has been fighting, of course, for LFA and other promotions as well in the past. But if you do watch him, here's the thing about Wetzell. He's got very good takedown defense. And I knew that he had good takedown defense going into the Kasim Kasumov fight. I just didn't realize that it was that good, you know? And when he does get this takedown defended, he does have pretty solid striking overall. I think his boxing's pretty good. He does have decent head movement. He's not a patchy mix kind of guy that's never going to move his feet, move his feet and his head. I mean, Mix just stood there, right? But taking on Mando Gutierrez, it is going to be a bit of a tough matchup for for Wetzell, because Mando, in my opinion, isn't like the greatest striker in the world. I mean, Nuzi was just beating the crap out of him before he slipped over. But the thing about Mando is he will just get scrappy with you. He will throw very aggressive boxing combinations up and close, and he will pressure forward, because what Mando Gutierrez wants to do is he wants to get his grappling going. That is Mando Gutierrez's best part of his game. Gutierrez was brought in on the Contender Series, I'm going to go way back now, to lose against Raul Rosas Jr., and I did pick Raul Rosas Jr. to beat him on the Contender Series in 2022, because this was a perfect mirror matchup for both guys. Mando Gutierrez and Raul Rosas Jr. have the exact same fighting style. It's just that Raul Rosas Jr. is just slightly better at doing that, and I thought that at the time, and it's kind of what happened there. So you can kind of think of Mando Gutierrez as like a different version of Raul Rosas Jr., in my opinion. So he's going to come forward, he's going to pressure, he's going to try and take down Wetzell. But the thing about Wetzell, it's not only against Khamidov, but against, Bekzad Usmanov is a striker, but against other opponents in the past as well, Wetzell has shown good takedown defense, and I do think that in this matchup, he should be able to defend the takedowns against Gutierrez. He should also, once again, have a size advantage over Gutierrez, and the thing about Mando is he does have a chin on him. I mean, he was eating some massive shots by Nuzi there, so I think that Wetzell, he just hasn't really shown that he's got big KO power, so I think that Wetzell is just going to go out there against Gutierrez and outpoint him for 15 minutes in this fight. But it's a very intriguing fight. Minus 200 is Wetzell here. And now Mostoli Alves is once again coming off a massive performance where he beat Leandro Higo in a fight which Higo just looked a bit pathetic in. I will be honest, I was really high on Higo going into that matchup, and he just looked so bad. He just did. Mostoli Alves is tiny for this weight class. He's very small for bantamweight, but he is a very good striker. He's a very dynamic guy. He does have a lot of power, just given the fact that he does have a small frame, and he does have like very solid kickboxing. But taking on Jake Hadley here, we know that Jake Hadley can do a bit of everything. Jake Hadley can box, he can wrestle, he can grapple, and the thing about Alves is he is going to be so much smaller than Hadley in this fight, and I do think that Hadley on the feet should be able to avoid the power shots of Mostoli Alves, and as long as Hadley just isn't getting tagged by Alves, he should be able to come forward, he should be able to pressure, and he should be able to get those takedowns against Alves. Now, I do know that he did show fantastic takedown defense against Leandro Higo, but Higo was just diving for the legs against Alves from meters away, from the other side of the cage at moments. It was a very odd performance from Higo. There is a lot of cope in my heart on that one, I will be honest, but like he wasn't defending takedowns that Hadley's going to shoot. I think Hadley's going to set up his takedowns a lot better. He's going to box to close the range, and I think he can use that size advantage to find some success here. So as long as Hadley just doesn't get knocked out, I think Hadley's going to win, and I think that honestly Hadley has a good chance of winning the whole tournament. He's minus 150 against Alves here. Mansour Banawi is going to be fighting against Archie Colgan, and I like this fight for Colgan. Now, the thing about Archie Colgan is, I just really like Archie Colgan as a fighter. I become a big fan of his when he knocked out Justin Montalvo, because that just was a very good performance for him, and ever since then, we have seen Archie Colgan being built up by Bellator against more difficult opponents over time. And the thing about Colgan is he does have very good skill sets in the boxing and the wrestling. Now, we have seen in his more recent performances, he has been very content just getting the takedown and just kind of laying there and controlling his opponents in top positions to win a decision, which can be quite boring. I am aware of that, but I do think that he still possesses a well-rounded skill set in the wrestling and the boxing as well. I think that he is a very good prospect. He's taking on Mansour Banawi, and the thing about Banawi is Banawi's a very good grappler. He's got very sick BJJ, in my opinion, but we have seen him lose to Brent Primus in a fight which did go 5 rounds, of course, but Primus beat Banawi by doing what Colgan has been doing in his more recent fights, which was just taking down Banawi and then controlling him for a large proportion of that fight, and then he lost to JJ Wilson, And that was a very good performance for JJ Wilson, because Wilson was actually able to out-grapple Barnawi in moments as well. Barnawi is a very big guy for the weight class. He even looked big compared to Primus, and Primus is huge for 155 pounds, so that's definitely something that is worth noting when we go into this one here. But I do think that Colgan should just kind of be the better wrestler, be the better boxer. Another thing as well is I think that you guys may or may not be aware of it, but Barnawi is also dealing with some like pretty horrible stuff in the background, so I don't think his mental's going to be 100% either. So yeah, I think that there are signs that point to Colgan should be able to win this one here. Not only do I like his boxing a lot, I actually do rate Colgan's striking quite a bit, but I also think that just given the fact that we've seen Barnawi lose to Primus, who did the exact same thing as what Colgan's been doing to his previous opponents, I think we see Colgan go out there, get the takedowns, avoid getting submitted is going to be the key for him, and maybe even on the feet we could see Colgan find some success. But Barnawi's a big guy, he is pretty dangerous. I like Colgan in the fight though. Colgan is minus 300. And now we can move up to the co-main event. Liz Carmouche taking on Ilara Dana. I'm seeing a lot of people trying to jump on Ilara Dana as a pretty solid underdog here, and I will be honest, at plus 325, sorry, I can understand it. But I just don't know if Liz Carmouche's time is right now. I think a lot of people think that just given the fact that Liz Carmouche is 41 years old, you know, she's been on a big win streak, she's coming off a loss to Taila Santos before beating Ilara Joane, but, you know, Joane is Ilara Joane, right? She's not that great, but... And Ilara Dana's coming off a big performance against Diana Avsaragova, but the thing about Dana, guys, is I just don't think she's good at striking. I really don't. I've seen her fights on the regional scene. She's even got some KOs on the regional scene, but she's just very, very sloppy on the feet. And if she's going to win this fight, she's going to need to take down Liz Carmouche, control Liz Carmouche, and submit Liz Carmouche. I do think on the feet, Liz Carmouche, just given the fact, the experience, and the fact that Dana, despite being very powerful, I'll give her that, just doesn't really have very good technique, and I just can't personally see Liz Carmouche getting knocked out by Dana on the feet. And I don't see Dana just taking down and controlling Liz Carmouche for rounds on end. Now, I do understand that if you do look through Liz Carmouche's career, Carmouche is not that big for flyweight, and I know that you can watch some performances, such as her fight against Deanna Bennett, in which Deanna Bennett was able to take her down and control her in the past, and even Kana Watanabe in some moments, you could also argue potentially as well, and Taila Santos, but Dana is a lot smaller than these fighters. Dana was small against Diana Avsaragova. Dana is genuinely a 5'3" woman's flyweight. I think she is quite small for the weight class. I just personally can't see Dana going out there, taking down Liz Carmouche, and just submitting her like that. Now, you know, I think Carmouche wins. I mean, I really do. I feel like I'm just kind of, this breakdown has turned into me arguing against someone that doesn't even exist. But here's the thing about this fight. I think Carmouche has shown that she can push forward, she can box, she can get takedowns as well. She's got 3 wins now over Juliana Velasquez, which has aged really badly since, unfortunately, of course, we did see Shakalova do it. But I think Carmouche can go out there against Dana, avoid submission attempts, avoid getting taken down herself, maybe get her own takedowns, and also find success on the feet in her own right. Hopefully that makes sense. I am picking Carmouche. I know she's minus 400, but I do think she does win the fight. Now we have Kevin Lee versus Gazi Ravadonov, and here's the thing about Kevin Lee. He has taken this fight on short notice. I think this fight was not announced that long ago. Kevin Lee has been kind of fighting all over the place. He's been fighting at 170 pounds. He came in on, I think it was short notice, against Renat Fakhrinov at 170 pounds, got dropped and then guillotined in the first minute, and these fought Thiago Oliveira, but Thiago Oliveira, the win hasn't aged that well. And the thing is about Kevin Lee is, I think we also need to remember this against Diego Sanchez. This was a really bad performance for Kevin Lee, where Diego Sanchez nearly beat him with leg kicks. So we just haven't seen Kevin Lee look good for a very, very long time, and I can't even remember the last time we've even seen him fight at 155 pounds. When was the last time Kevin Lee made lightweight? It was in 2020 against Charles do Bronx Oliveira in a main event. I mean, dude, he hasn't made 155 pounds in 5 years. And now he's got to do it on short notice. And here's another thing about Kevin Lee, guys. How many times have we seen it posted on Twitter that Kevin Lee's been getting brutally slept in sparring? I can think of 2 instances we have seen a video of Kevin Lee getting knocked out in sparring. And if there's videos out there, I think you could maybe make the assumption that maybe Kevin Lee's been getting knocked out in sparring more often than we're seeing posted on the internet. Now, personally, I don't understand why people are trying to knock each other out in sparring. I personally have sparred before. Obviously, I did fight in amateur boxing in 2023, but like he's getting knocked out in sparring. Like is the chin even there? Like, what if he makes 155? He's got to drain himself to make 155, and then take on Gutierrez, who for a long time wasn't really finishing anyone, and then he knocked out Brent Primus, and he knocked out Mark Diakase in 30 seconds, and then he knocked out Michael Defort. But the thing about Gutierrez is he's a sick wrestler. He should be able to defend any takedowns that Kevin Lee tries to shoot on him. He should be the better striker here. He's minus 2,000. I don't really know why I need to justify it that much, but like plus 1,000 on Kevin Lee, is it worth putting $5 on? I mean, personally, I think you probably could make the argument that it is, but I think Rabadonov just knocks out Kevin Lee in the first round. There's so many questions about this fight. Like, has Kevin Lee signed a multi-fight deal here? Is he going to be fighting more than once for the PFL this year? I don't know, man. I just don't know what we can expect out of Kevin Lee. And I think the main one for me is he just looked really bad against Diego Sanchez, because he did. So, I'm going to go with Rabadonov to knock him out in the first round. As sad as it is, and as big of a fall off as it has been, I think we see Rabadonov get a knockout in this main event. Let me know what you think in the comments below. 13-fight PFL card. Hopefully the picks are as good as BitSam's were last week. I'll see you guys in the next one.